Evening, Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to F1 Manager episode 64. Albin has leveled up to an 83, and more I'm regretting the choice of maybe letting him go. He's starting to reach 80 plus in everything, and while Porsche made huge steps this season to really be competitive alongside Albin, how competitive is he actually? Because while we might be, second in the constructors, there's a 44-point gap between Albin and Porsche, and it's clear he's still a second driver. He has a similar pace now. He is competitive, but he's still not very consistent. Now, the one thing about bringing in Jack Doohan is that actually Jack Doohan would be fast. All three have almost identical pace. They're all between an 80 and 82 in each pace category. Now, he actually would be consistent. His accuracy is an 85, his controls is 78, and the one area where he lacked horribly was how he would handle the tires. And actually, he's doing much better in that department now. 74 is not fantastic, but it's certainly an acceptable level. Where he's going to struggle a little bit is here, the racecraft side. Adaptability, especially. So he wouldn't do terribly well in the wet weather. But none of my guys are terribly good in the wet weather. Albin is the best one rating-wise there. But his overtaking is acceptable at 76. And defending of 71 actually isn't all that bad. Albin was a 70 until recently. Growth potential still being high. Already a 79. I stopped worrying about that transition. At least not much, right? He's still a step behind where Albin is, just not far. And Albin's progression is pretty slow. Just to throw out that third comparison, here is Porsche's pace. That consistency, which is what we've been working on lately. These were both about a 70 or just below. I've brought accuracy and control approaching an 80. They're still not quite there, but they are getting close. Porsche will stop making those mistakes as we approach this next season. Where he's still a little bit off is his overtaking isn't great, so it takes him often a bit longer to climb and make his way past cars than it does somebody like Albin. But his defending was better until recently. This is where he's still lagging behind compared to Albin. This was the other area, but it's coming along, and he still has the high growth potential, so he'll catch up. He'll catch up soon enough. Patience is back to a medium for him, so let's see if we can, before this contract runs out, get one car locked down for next season finally. Having left off at 4.8 million, we're going to try 5.5, which is, it's only 700,000 more. Let's see where that gets us. Patience at medium, I should get 2 tries at it this. Still declined. We're going to try 6.25. The next step from here would be 7 million. We're far exceeding what Albin did, but I don't know. Maybe the thing about Albin's contract, even though Albin was better than this, was that Albin didn't have results to go off. Porsche does. He is a race winner. There it is. Contract accepted. 6.25 million. So we're up about 1.5 million from where we were in relation. Essentially, he's going to take over Albin's contract. And then we assume that Doohan, who's got no F1 experience, will take over Porsche's previous contract, which was, quite low. He was 3 years, 380,000 with tiny little bonuses. I don't know if Doohan will go quite that low, but I'm assuming we can get Doohan signed on pretty cheap. And that is another thing that's going to help us continue to grow and focus on the car. We're not going to be spending a crap ton of money on drivers. 6.25 isn't actually all that bad, because the main thing here is that the lump sum bonus was 60K. We're paying 60K today, name on the dotted line, right? But the race target bonus is just 25,000 per race, and he's got to finish in the top 7 for that. Now, we're going to finish in the top 7 fairly often, but Albin's was 17th and a fair bit larger than that. We were paying the bonus virtually every race, for the last couple of years. There you go. Theo Pourchaire is locked up for 4 more years with Williams. We've got our primary man, even though he's still slightly error prone. It's definitely not like it was in the early days, and he definitely has the pace that he didn't have in the early days. He's becoming a solid number one option who still has high potential and still grow rapidly. Having finished a suspension research project, we still have almost a month until we enter the next period, so I don't have any hours to give, but we can actually still get progress without it. It's not as good, but in something fast like a suspension project, which we just finished, we could immediately go into the next one, right? We have 28 days till the next period. The baseline is 25 days at 200,000. So why not continue right on into research? You can see, it does come with gains, even if it's marginal. Gains are gains. And with such a low cost, it makes total sense. Let's go ahead and push forward into that next category and see, can we get more boost? Now, the brake cooling and airflow are hurting. Looks like that's going to come with benefit, so we definitely want that. Keep an eye on this, as we do want to keep it close to the 1 month. Okay, this one does come at a cost, but not bad. So we'll go ahead and take the airflow gains as well. Cost barely goes up, and it just hits 30 days, putting us into the new period. And that makes sense. This is ever so slightly better. That's 1 percentage point better. And then, we're gaining 2.25% on that brake cooling, which is losing 30% of its value. So getting a fair bit of that back is absolutely going to help us. Car performance wise, I don't think it's going to actually revolutionize the wheel or anything, but gains are gains, especially for minimal cost. Last year for Suzuka, we got 5th and 8th place, getting both cars in the points in just a generally solid performance, and we were just behind George Russell, not quite able to overtake him for 4th place. Again, we're kind of in a weird state at the end of this year. We've improved it a little bit, but we really neglected those few parts. I feel really bad about what I've done to the team by altering strategy to try to get, we had 3 strong areas and 3 weak areas. I tried to help the 3 weak areas to the detriment of the team. The 3 strong areas absolutely are what got us in the position we were in, and you cannot afford to neglect those. I think we reached that time where we needed to now alter our attention to all 6, not to the 3 weaker areas. I knew that others would make gains on us. I didn't think it would happen that rapidly, just based on what I had seen in the previous years, and especially with less wind tunnel time. Our gains are, less than what they had been previously. We are looking at a very wet Sunday, though, for Suzuka, so could be an interesting race.
Konnichiwa from the Suzuka circuit in Japan. This unique track is a favorite home for motorsports, and it welcomes us back this weekend. Get ready for exhilaration and speed with the Japanese Grand Prix. Drivers will battle it out this weekend on the snaking turns of Suzuka, the only figure-of-8 track in Formula One. High-speed downforce will be the name of the game here, if teams want to secure a place on that podium. This is it. We're down to the last few races of the season, and it's time for that final push. Who will be crowned champion at the end of it all? We'll find out soon enough. Stay right here, because we're just getting started.
Approaching the end of Q1, we are 7th and 8th. I'd say there's probably 3 cars out of position behind us, and we're going to head out on the early side to get a second lap in on the same set of tires that we made our first run on, assuming that we're going to be pretty comfortable here in Q1 of Suzuka. Impressed with our pace here so far this weekend. We're less than a tenth behind the McLarens, who have been among the faster cars lately, but Alpine also ahead of us. You can see 1 Ferrari, 1 Red Bull are out of place, 1 Mercedes is out of place. Otherwise, we're in for a decent time, but you can see by the time we get down to the end here, just outside of the top 10, so maybe not so surprising once everybody kind of got into place. That's about where we're at. We are expecting some rain for today, for Saturday, and we have not had anything in the third practice session or in Q1. So maybe in Q2 or Q3 we could expect to see some rain. And Q2 starts with rain. So the rain started to fall between Q1 and Q2. It's approaching full wet conditions, but you can see that the rain is supposed to stop here very early, and then it's supposed to dry out as the session goes on, which means the final run is going to easily be the quickest. So we're going to have to, maybe we want to get a banker lap in just to have a time before we go out and try to set another one. So bunch of traffic out there, plus Albin then makes a mistake while passing the Ferrari. Seriously?
Okay.
Albin didn't just lock up, he crashed. It was Porsche,
here.
and it was trying to pass the Ferrari. He gets in our way, and then it throws our line off. And so then as we go to enter the next corner, we've got way too much speed, it cannot bring it down, and Albin has retired. He's out in Q2. We'll have to start from a P15. Great. Just what we needed.
P0.
And it looks like actually we are in for more rain. Ricardo has also crashed though, so we're not the only one.
Okay, there's a big crash.
Six minutes to go. The rain has stopped and we're down to 1.5 millimeters, so I do think the track will dry out enough to get a run in on softs. With it still being damp, there might be a lot of cars that go back out on intermediates. Porsche will be fastest here in Q2, no doubt about it. Porsche has already caught Guan Yu Zhou ahead of him, but even with catching and passing another car and the time lost from that, he'll still be quickest in the session, being that we are the only ones on the dry compound in now dry conditions. Porsche 2.5 seconds quicker than anybody else. Oh, here's a big one. Q3, rain is expected. And throughout the session, but not yet. So you could get a dry run in right at the beginning. Porsche's got a shot at making pole. Now, I do not have the brand new fresh set, but we're going to send him out on the first second. He's going to get the driest run that anybody's going to get. Let's hope that it's dry enough. And Porsche's got quite the head start over others with that rain coming anytime. And Porsche is going to get out just in time ahead of the Mercedes. And he does get that clean run, but how many others will manage to get clean runs as well? In the middle of our lap, I'd love to see the rain start to fall now because, we're on the tail end of our lap and others would experience it quite soon. Porsche does get a full lap in before the rain begins to fall. So it's going to be a solid time of 1:27.536 for his lap. But here comes Norris. He's going to get a clean lap in. And there's the rain. Norris finishes his lap. He'll be ahead of us. We will not have pole, but the rest of the field is coming and the rain is falling and the grip is slipping. Perez somehow still faster. Perez goes P1. Already 0.5 millimeters. We should see times dropping. Ocon slower, 1.1 down. There you go. It looks like we're going to start P3 for the race. Second row. Final runs coming now with intermediate conditions for all of the drivers. So we are not making a second run. We take the checkered flag, and you're going to see these lower times improve.
No rain expected. No rain expected.
Oh, the rain stops. It's too late for that, though. So Sainz in the Ferrari and Leclerc. That's P10 and P12 for the Ferraris. That's a huge jump to the start. That's purple in Q2. That is third for Q3. Not relative of what our pace is, but it's going to make a big difference for the race. Ocon has a penalty. Guan Yu Zhou has a penalty, so Albin will move up at least one spot based on the Guan Yu Zhou penalty. Disappointing for him on where he's going to be. Let's hope Pourchaire does not make any mistakes in the race and sacrifice the excellent qualifying that we've had.
The time has come to fight it out. It's race day.
Seeing how they did in qualifying, Williams are going to be the team to watch here. They'll be starting strong at the top of the grid and will have many opportunities to steer the race in their favor. The work Red Bull did during qualifying was nothing short of spectacular. Now let's see if they can repeat that for today's race. And the sky is looking grey and cloudy today. An effective tyre strategy could prove very valuable as the race plays out.
But now it's time for the team's cunning to emerge and for the driver's talent to shine. Let's see what's in store for us at the Japanese Grand Prix.
Rain expected at about the midpoint of the race, and the expected race strategy was a two-stopper with it starting on the softs. So we are going to be off the pace, I believe, at the beginning of this race, but we're going to save a pit stop because everybody's going to have to pit before the rain comes at that midway point. We are going to go on to the mediums and sustain a little bit lower pace, bide our time. Everybody's going to pit and peel off, and we're going to improve our track position significantly, and then the rain's going to come. Also, it's looking like once the rain does come, the best strategy is probably a two-stopper, or an additional stop for fresh intermediates. But at the same time, you could just about make it to the end of the race on that set, especially with two drivers that are capable of driving a little more conservatively and making the tires last a little bit longer and saving a pit stop. Now, rain conditions look like not once but twice could reach full wet conditions, but it won't sustain. It would not be worth it to come in and pit when it only lasts for 2 to 3 laps. Therefore, we could see some crazy strategies with a lot of pit stops out there, and meanwhile we're looking to make a one-stopper. We'll see if that pans out, but that means two things. One, we cannot drive hard at all, so we need to gain some pace in another way, and that's going to be under fueling not by 1 but by 2, and we're only going to off the line be aggressive with the medium compounded, probably everyone around us on the softs, meaning we are probably going to lose a position off the line, but we don't want to lose a bunch. So we want to be aggressive, kind of just off the line, and then, I went the wrong direction. And then we want to settle in very, very fast because we need to really, really stretch the tire life to get to the period where the rain comes. And then we'll see how much lifting and coasting we have to do as the race goes on. But again, if everybody else is pitting a lot more than just one time more than us, and quite a few cars pitting 3 times, 5 times more than us, depending on those wet conditions, this could be one of those where we, through attrition of the rest of the field, move up. But I do think Pourchaire could easily lose a position or two at the start. Albin, starting from P13, shouldn't have as much trouble as he's faster than some of the cars around him. But he still might lose one off the start.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. Looking now at the Williams. Starting in 3rd place, they're in a really good position for this race. And then we've got Alex Albon. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. Will their hard work pay off today? The drivers are warmed up, they're ready to go here at the Japanese Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
By the way, our weather center has just upgraded, so we now have a 100% accuracy on our weather reports. We'll see what that one does for us here as Pourchaire struggling beside Mercedes to try to hang on to his position, and he's down not 1 but 2 spots so far, but he's got the Mercedes to the inside. Once we kind of settle in here, we'll see where we're at. Is anybody else on the mediums? No, we are all alone in this strategy call. Find out if it pans out for us, as Pourchaire has not quite settled in yet, but now does. Now settles into P4.
We want to leave court, please.
And we're getting up beside the McLaren to try to get back into P3. Push a little longer.
We look
Push
at
a little longer.
reducing the lift and core.
Nope, McLaren pulls back ahead. And once again, like I said, we don't want to overdo it here at all. And then Porsche goes ahead and gets around the McLaren.
Core increased.
Meanwhile, Albon is in the position he started in, so at least he has not lost anything. He's only back to 2 guys ahead of him, but as they battle, there's not much space. So go ahead and settle in for him as well.
Increase lifting code.
Okay, copy.
That was Bottas that Porsche got around to get back up to P3, and McLaren's are both in the top 4. Perez is the race leader. Remember, it was Perez, Norris, Porsche who got the dry run in at the start of the race. But Bottas and a McLaren was best of the rest, apparently. Russell, Vettel, Hamilton, and Verstappen. Alright, well, we are already settling in. Again, our pace is not going to be relative to everyone else's, so we'll see kind of what sort of pace we can maintain, but at the same time, let's see what happens with our fuel. Will it, running on the mediums and running neutral, will it start to recover? We are recovering fuel, though, as both cars have recovered 0.2 already. Albon keep it up a little bit easier as it's Ricciardo he's chasing. Sainz has moved forward ahead of Tsunoda, but had lost the DRS of the Mercedes and is now battling with Sainz to lead what is now becoming the second train. Albon right towards the tail end of those first 2 trains that are close to each other still. Vettel is still about 1.5 seconds back, just missing DRS. And 2, here's that first wave of pits as 5 cars dive off and enter pit road. Now, our problem here is, do we have DRS for much longer, and how much ground are they going to make up? More will dive off, and Porsche takes over the race lead as the front 2 runners. And Sector 1, yellow flag. Bottas, Hamilton, both into the pits.
We've just had a car run wide.
We've got Leclerc left. Not a huge advantage over Sainz, but again, it is an advantage, and while they are going to be gaining on us lap by lap here, we should ultimately still be out front when it comes time for the rain to begin to fall as Leclerc gets back around Albon and still does. Checking in on last lap times. How quickly are they gaining on us?
Okay, there's a big crash.
As we have a big crash in Sector 1. Let's see who and what
I think that was a
happened.
crash.
Schumacher crashed
Let's
on
take
turn
a closer
11.
look. Now let's watch this. The Alfa
In the Alfa
Romeo
Romeo,
involved in
they've
this
been
one.
competitive, but not lately. It's the hairpin.
Dear me, they won't have been
Walks
expecting
up.
that.
Can't make the turn in. Puts it in the wall. That should just be a wing replacement. 131s and a half roughly. So we're losing roughly
And a new
a second
position
per lap.
Just gained by Williams.
So a second per lap. Over 12 laps. Saving the pit stop is ultimately going to save us quite a bit of time. And 10 to 15 seconds by the time that rain does come. And their pace advantage is not going to be continual. It's not going to last forever. Sainz is on 68% already. Verstappen's on 75% already. Leclerc pits, so he's out.
Further rain expected.
Weather predicted now just 4 minutes away. It looks like it's coming sooner, which is good for us. Albin is just under 5 seconds behind Pourchaire, just far enough back that we could afford to double stop. Perez is 8.5 seconds behind Albin. Be ready for that. So the rain is beginning to fall. We are still at 0.66 though. So the track's not yet wet enough, but it looks like it's going to get there very, very soon. We don't have much time to make a decision on whether we want to pit now, but it's already looking, again, one earlier. We're 2 laps ahead of where we expected to be pitting. But we are about to be on the next lap, so really it's only 1 lap ahead, I suppose. Here's to hoping that we've made the right strategy call this time on going to the intermediates. So many guys do not pit in yet. Perez does not pit in yet, but Sainz, Norris, and Verstappen does. Hamilton, Ricciardo does. Got at least 4 guys staying out in that extra lap, and it's 1.03, so it is time. We are on the right compound at the moment. The rain is going to intensify. Here's what we're expecting. I'm expecting that to be full wet conditions for 1, 2, 3 laps maybe. Half the field has pit. A little less than half have not. Keep an eye on the interval. Look how quickly Pourchaire is closing in on Albin. Albin, meanwhile, though, is behind.
We're happy to push on with the tyres.
Okay, copy.
Need to get around Leclerc. Need to get
Let's
around
close this
Leclerc.
gap.
Pourchaire 4 seconds back, so we're going to watch him as we make a move to get around Leclerc.
Okay, reduce lift and
Fuel
coast.
first.
Okay.
You can
And
afford
we'll
to drop
be
back.
able to make the pass cleanly
Okay.
without having to even turn the fuel up, so that's good. Albin, meanwhile, has made it around Ocon. Front 3 into the pits, so Pourchaire is going to have clean track. Joe in the pits. Albin's going to have clean track as well. And we're going to be resuming this race from P1 and P2. Everybody's on the intermediates, by the way, so nobody opting for full wets. So if they pit to switch to the wets, they're going to go back. Stroll and Schumacher still have not pit yet. Sonoda goes for full wets. The only one to opt for the full wets. We're up to, but Verstappen is 11 seconds behind Pourchaire. Full wet conditions, but it's not supposed to last for very long. Hamilton 15, Sainz is 16, and then that's a good advantage. So far, so good. Let's now watch how much time does Sonoda gain into the leader. He is a minute and 1 behind in 18th because he's already made an extra stop, I'm assuming. 4.5 millimeters, holding fairly steady, but the rain is supposed to lighten in just a few minutes. And Sonoda is gaining, but not rapidly. Magnussen pits. Fuel now 2.5, but also down to just 22 laps, and we've gained a third of what we need to gain. But again, that was dry conditions, now wet conditions. We should be gaining more rapidly. Albin has caught up to Pourchaire. Is he that much better? Or did he make a mistake that we missed? Albin has just flown past him. He's 5 seconds behind. And he's quickly caught up. Is it because of the full wet conditions and having a low drivability? Could be. Pourchaire is well off pace. He's still dropping back, so I think it's just pace. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was the adaptability for Albin is good. They are in the wrong conditions right now, and therefore you're seeing more of an offset in terms of pace. Not adapting to the conditions, and here comes Verstappen. We need to get back to intermediate conditions and soon, but the rain has lifted, and we are almost back down to those intermediate conditions. Meanwhile, Sonoda and Magnussen, right, they've gained over 20 seconds. hurting a lot. But there you go. We're finally back down to damp. As should be for quite a while yet. That looks like a longer run in the wets. We're looking 8 to 10 laps and only a short amount left at the end. So I think what we're going to be doing is when that rain picks up back to wet conditions, we're going to switch to the wet compound and run that to the end of the race. As we've just seen how bad it was for Pourchaire. Pourchaire lost 7 seconds relative to his teammate and now has Verstappen breathing down his neck. And Albon lost time relative to others. We're actually we've backed ourselves up to those guys.
Low fuel, so be mindful of that.
Yes.
Verstappen right there, so 1, 2, 3 all together now. Hamilton is 5 seconds back. Sainz, Norris still up in P6. Ricardo, Perez down in P8. Russell. So we have one Ferrari up in P5. Leclerc's all the way down in P15 because he did not pit. I think we might have about 1 kilogram left of saving just naturally. We saved half a kilogram for Albon. We've now saved a couple tenths for Pourchaire, but I think they're going to need to save at least 1 more. Track down to 2 millimeters. Hamilton getting a little bit closer. Same with Sainz. Yeah. So going more aggressive is working. I should have done this sooner. Once I realized that I'm probably going to want to pit again. Okay, past pit road. And heavier rain is imminent. We might have 1 to 2 laps left as the rain is starting to pick up. Track going from 1.4 millimeters as it had slowly dried out to now 1.6. But only climbing gradually for now. 2 minutes until it's going to get even heavier. We're not pitting this lap. We're going to do at least 1 more. Now heavier rain again, 2 millimeters. And here comes that, I think, 1 more lap, and we're looking at wet conditions. 2.5. Pourchaire needs to be on the right compound at the right time, more so than Albon. So pitting him now, even though it's at 3.73. We'll see if others end up pitting as well. Rain has not reached its pinnacle. And will it at all? Gosh, it looks like we might be in the high 3s for most of the rest of the race. This might not pan out very well. Albon needs to go standard and try to hang on. Is 5 laps enough? Should we pit this lap?
Okay, we're happy to push.
Watch Pourchaire's time. He's at 22 seconds behind Albon. So this is relative to his teammate. He should be gaining now. And here goes Verstappen around Perez, around Albon, that is.
Keep pushing. Keep pushing.
Still undecided on what to do with Albon. Whether to try to hang on. If nobody else is pitting, we should probably just stay out. We'll keep having a look, but unable to actually get around him. And at point 8, we're getting close to where we need to be. Albon down to P3 as Hamilton now gets around. And is definitely driving faster. He'll have P9 before too long if he manages to get around these 3 guys.
Overtake is available.
Oh, running wide. He was okay there.
They've gone
He was
wide.
okay. Finally, we get up beside Guan Yu Zhou.
Oh, and Ferrari just
Completed
gained
the first of
pace.
4 moves. Sainz has gotten around Albon, so Albon's down to 5th now. Norris goes around as well. He's lost 2 positions.
Okay, keep pushing,
And
keep pushing.
Pourchaire, meanwhile, has gained 2 positions. One left to go here before we get some clean air for a bit. And we are up beside Bottas. We're not yet done. And we start to pull ahead. Alternative strategy. He's not that far behind, and the track is still wet conditions. So we've just about got that right. And you know that Porsche right now, as we've already seen, oh, big mistake ahead of us, and that's going to move both cars up. Yes. Yes, okay. Two-car crash. That was Norris wiping out Sainz.
Sounds like there's been contact. We can take a look
replay.
now. Okay, here's
So
the
Norris
Ferrari.
with the lockup heading into the hairpin. Just comes right up behind him,
You can
and
clearly see the contact there.
both taking the
And that
damage,
caused a
both going
lot of
backwards.
damage. And a
Got
new
one.
position, just gained
Sainz
by
peel off. He
Williams.
does. Okay, so we're around both, and that's going to be Porsche up into P7. 5 seconds behind Perez and Russell. 5 seconds behind Perez and Russell, but the track is starting to dry out a little bit, so the advantage for Porsche will soon be gone. Porsche got to 14.8, so 7 seconds behind his teammate. But again, had Porsche not pit, his low adaptability, right? We had already seen a 7-second loss in 6-7 laps earlier. He was losing a second a lap, so he would be at least 7 seconds down on Albon right now, meaning we're right where he would have been otherwise. So, interesting way of getting there, but ultimately for Porsche, it has worked out. And actually, we pulled further away from Norris and Bottas and are closing up on Perez and Russell, despite the fact that it's 3.73 and technically intermediate conditions, and that could be the fresh tires as others are losing pace. Actually, not many guys are in that below 50% range right now.
Someone run wide
Verstappen
there.
runs wide and somehow keeps the lead. He does it on turn 3, so he's in snake, but it doesn't impact him. Runs wide and then keeps the lead anyway. Porsche losing pace rapidly now, with just a few laps to go. Albon, positive delta. Porsche, positive delta. We've made it. Did take more lifting and coasting than I expected it to based on the start of the race. But based on the start of the race being as light as we were while on the mediums made a huge difference, because ultimately we were able to make the tires last. And coming out of Spoon, one of the
We
AlphaTauris,
just had a crash on the
Vettel,
track.
has crashed at turn 13. It's going to stop raining in 4 minutes, right at the end of the race. Final 2 laps. Porsche, you can see just how quickly he's dropping back with Vettel coming towards him. Albon just holding these guys off. Let's get back with him as he does remain in 3rd place.
So it's not raining in the pit lane.
And the rain has stopped. Turn the engine up for Porsche. Still ahead of Vettel, but only by 2 tenths. Porsche somehow holding off Vettel. Sainz has caught up now as well. Both Ferraris are out of the points. Rounds the final corner. And he takes the win ahead of Hamilton and Albon. Looks like he is going to hang on for P3. And does. Ricardo, Perez, Russell. You got Bottas coming.
Yeah, copy. Nice job. Nice job.
Rounding the final corner himself
up.
now for P7. Guan Yu Zhou.
So what DRS?
8, Ocon 9, and here is Porsche trying to hold off now Sainz. Sainz has gotten around Vettel. Going to keep the Ferraris out of the points entirely. Entering the final corner. Drag race. and we hold them off. We hold them off for the final point.
Checkered flag.
Pourchaire, the race conditions, the variable conditions with a low adaptability score really hurt him because he was the one who started from P3. Albin started from P13, and the advantage was 5 seconds. That advantage went away as track conditions varied. As they varied away from the compounds we were on. We had made every right decision up until the fact that Pourchaire just could not be continually on the right compound without lots of pit stops.
What a
and
pleasure
therefore
it was to watch
he
Alex
was
Albon on the
losing
track.
pace
And an amazing
during
result to match.
certain periods of time where the conditions were wrong and everybody was sticking it out, and he was at that point losing significant time. That is a podium
Everyone
for
involved
Albin.
in Formula 1.
15 valuable points for Albin, 1 for Pourchaire, but that should really help us with holding off. Albin now at 199, Pourchaire 141. You can see his shortcoming though today. It was pretty costly. Ferrari gains no points. It's a 61 point advantage now with 4 races to go. I'm really liking our chances of hanging on to P2 in the Constructors, but at almost 100 points behind Red Bull next season, and trying to beat them looks quite tricky. McLaren closing the gap slightly. Mercedes just 2 points behind McLaren after a solid performance today. Alpine, AlphaTauri also to score, and the last 3 teams not able to get in the points today. That is going to do it for this episode though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.